of the world's most successful white-collar criminals. He basically persuaded then Prime Minister of Malaysia, Najib Razak, up to $8 billion was stolen.
From the earliest days, he was getting overextended, and that's why we saw that the size of the thefts got bigger and bigger.
It's rare to see a scam artist so perfectly capture the spirit of old-timey bank robbers. However, Malaysian businessman Taek Joho, also known as Jho Low, is like John Dillinger, D.B. Cooper, and Bernie Madoff, all rolled into one. If authorities can be believed, Low leveraged his relationship with the former Malaysian Prime Minister to access billions of dollars he used to fund lavish Hollywood parties, invest in insane schemes, and fund one of the most popular movies in recent history. In this video, we'll explore the rise and fall of the most wanted white-collar fugitive in history. Most people tend to think of financial criminals as older, the sort of men who spend their entire lives making contacts and building rapport with investors just to rip them off and fly to a private island somewhere. Yet, when Jho Low committed his crimes, the so-called Asian Great Gatsby had just barely entered his 40s. This, among other things, seems to hint at his being more than just your average con man. Low was born in Georgetown, Penang, Malaysia, to a wealthy Chinese Malay family. Though his family was not particularly flagrant about their money or status, it's theorized that they had a lot more going on than just some successful investments. Low's grandfather, Lo Meng Tak, was a wealthy Chinese businessman with interests in iron ore mines, liquor distilleries, and real estate. Meanwhile, Low's father, often called Larry, founded a successful investment holding firm called MWE Holdings. Given his background, Low had access to some of the best schools in the area. He even attended the elite Harrow School in London, which has produced everyone from prime ministers and scientists to actors and singers. An enterprising and likable young man, Low used this opportunity to hobnob with rich and powerful people from all around the world. He soon took his educational endeavors over to the United States, where he attended the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, famous for educating the likes of Donald Trump. Later on, it will become apparent that Low's formative years were integral to his crimes. Indeed, the average person can't just form relationships with international leaders, celebrities, and billionaires. But these people didn't intimidate Low. Rather, to him, they were the perfect prey. When you talk about some of the most successful financial criminals in the world, it's often difficult to tell where the legal businesses end and the scams begin. But considering Low may yet prove to be the greatest fraudster in history, we have to take even his legitimate business interests with a significant grain of salt. Low's first major deal came in 2006 when he facilitated the purchase of a luxury high-rise apartment building in Kuala Lumpur for the Kuwait Finance House. A year later, the New York Times reported that he'd formed an investment group that included a Kuwaiti sheikh, a Malaysian prince, and Yusuf al-Otaiba, a powerful political force in the UAE. Working with such high net worth individuals may have terrified the typical financial guru, but Low had spent his life around them. After 4 years, Low decided to consolidate his wealth into a company known as Jinwell Capital. At this point, Low was considered one of the most successful financial intermediaries in the world. Using his connections, he began facilitating acquisition deals all over the world, particularly in the United States, where he soon became a regular on the Hollywood scene. He founded shell companies that bought and sold mansions, financed parties with Paris Hilton and Beyoncé, and splurged on insane gifts. Yet, his biggest contact of all was back home in Malaysia, and it was no less than the Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Najib Razak. Indeed, Low had managed to befriend the Prime Minister's son, Riza Aziz. This relationship led to a series of profitable business deals, including the founding of Red Granite Pictures. Though it was brand new at the time, Red Granite eventually got a hold of a script for a little film called The Wolf of Wall Street, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and directed by Martin Scorsese. After the film became a hit, Low's Hollywood profile only grew. He started hanging out with more and more stars. He started dating Victoria's Secret model Miranda Kerr. He paid $30 million for a Central Park penthouse, once owned by Beyoncé and Jay-Z. But, most importantly, he kept in close contact with Aziz and his Prime Minister father back in Malaysia. Low was, pun intended, living the high life, but eventually it would all come crashing down. One Malaysia Development Berhad, or 1MDB, is a Malaysian strategic development company wholly owned by the country's Minister of Finance. Around 2009, Jho Low, using his contact with Prime Minister Razak, began acting as an advisor on a number of 1MDB deals, some of which involved billions of dollars. Not long after, articles began to be published regarding properties owned by shell companies under Low's control. The Wall Street Journal then published an expose showing that millions of dollars had been transferred from 1MDB directly into the bank account of Prime Minister Razak. The scandal led to widespread calls for his resignation and forced Interpol to issue a red notice to apprehend Low. As the years wore on and more of the scandal came to light, Razak was arrested by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission. Soon after, Malaysia elected a new prime minister. As one of his first acts, he relaunched a series of investigations into his predecessor's partners. As the police sifted through shell companies, false donations, and property schemes, one name repeatedly came up: Jho Low. But by this time, Low had completely disappeared. Because Low had been living and spending much of his wealth among celebrities in the US, the United States Justice Department soon got involved in the investigation as well. In fact, they went on to dub Low's crimes the biggest case of kleptocracy the organization had ever investigated. A lawsuit filed by the United States Department of Justice alleged that at least $3.5 billion had been stolen from Malaysia's 1MDB state-owned fund, though that number has since grown. With the DOJ on the case, Low's celebrity friends soon found themselves getting some unwanted heat. After all, it was now clear that Low had used 1MDB funds to bankroll his lavish parties, property deals, and Hollywood lifestyle. For instance, Low allegedly purchased a white Ferrari for Kim Kardashian's 2011 wedding to Kris Humphries at a price tag of around $325,000. His friend Leonardo DiCaprio, who had personally thanked him during an awards ceremony for helping fund The Wolf of Wall Street, was forced to return paintings by Basquiat and Picasso, allegedly because they were gifts from Low. Even Low's ex, Miranda Kerr, was forced to return diamond jewelry, estimated to be worth more than $8 million. But the celebrities weren't the only ones to suffer consequences for their associations with Low. In 2018, the DOJ brought charges against two ex-Goldman Sachs bankers who had aided Low in his theft of 1MDB funds. That same year, Low was accused, alongside South Korean musician Psy, of participating in the Burning Sun scandal, a landmark case that involved everything from embezzlement to prostitution to K-pop stars trading unconsented sex videos of random women, all out of a single club in Seoul. As of this recording, evidence states that Low may be hiding out in China, or more specifically, Macau. And despite the red notice issued to Interpol by the Malaysian government, he has been able to live and travel more or less as a free man. However you choose to view his life, there's no denying that Jho Low left quite the mark. In fact, he may be the perfect encapsulation of the entitled rich boy who, despite having the intelligence, education, and means to attain great wealth, simply couldn't resist stealing when he had the chance. And while the law enforcement net may be tightening around Low, socio-political factors may keep him safe in China for years, perhaps decades to come. After all, at just over 40 years old, he has a long time left to ply his trade, legal or otherwise.